Welcome into NBA Now right here on Chat Sports. I am your host today, Chase Senior. Give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. NBA draft coming up next week. NBA free agency on August 2nd. So make sure you are subscribed for the latest NBA news and rumors and breaking news. YouTube.com/ChatSportsTV or hit that red subscribe button down below. Let's jump into the latest NBA news and rumors. And could the Lakers be in play for an upgrade at the point guard position as Dennis Schroeder enters free agency? And could they fill that void with possibly Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook? Let's get into it. Okay, it's juicy time. Marc J of ESPN and the Undefeated reported today, as we record this during our live show on Wednesday, that the Lakers have been on the hunt for a veteran point guard. As for the players that are on their list, it includes Chris Paul as well as Russell Westbrook. If Chris Paul opts out, he becomes a free agent. Russell Westbrook would have to be a trade target. Lakers fell in the first round of the NBA playoffs, and I don't think there's any question they could use some upgrades to their roster outside of LeBron James as well as Anthony Davis. As for what Marc J had to say in that recent report, this is what he had to convey. According to sources, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers have been on the hunt for a veteran point guard, and Chris Paul is on the list. There have also been talks about Washington Wizards star Russell Westbrook being a potential candidate to move back home to Los Angeles in a sign-and-trade deal that could include free agent point guard Dennis Schroeder, that would have to be a sign-and-trade, forward Kyle Kuzma, and guard Talen Horton-Tucker, sources did say. I've never been a big fan of Russell Westbrook. I think he's a breathtaking athlete and one of the most highlight reel-worthy players that we've ever seen in the course of NBA history. But at the end of games, especially in the playoffs, he's maddening and frustrating to watch because I think he's a little bit too reckless, I should say, and he just always goes for the kill shot, doesn't have a great feel for the game. Also, I think from the Lakers' standpoint, if they want to bring in Russ, that contract is very, very prohibitive. And the Lakers, as we know, are cap-strapped. They are negative $9 million of cap space going into free agency, and Russ is set to make more than $44 million this upcoming season, and then has a player option in 2022-2023. Here is the reported Russell Westbrook trade. The Lakers would get back Russ as he returns home to Los Angeles. He also went to UCLA where he balled out with Kevin Love. The Wizards could kind of start to rebuild, but would this signal them completely rebuilding and getting rid of Bradley Beal and getting assets back in addition to these assets from the Lakers? Dennis Schroeder, Talen Horton-Tucker, as well as Kyle Kuzma. Laker Nation, NBA fans, speak up. Who do you think wins this trade? Type LAL for the Lakers, type WAS for the Wizards. Get those votes in the comments section. If it comes down to either trading for Russ or signing CP3 as we get a reunion of the Banana Boat Boys, I'm all in on Chris Paul. I think he's the better player. He's had much more postseason success. I think he makes more sense as a roster fit alongside LeBron because LeBron James has said this offseason he's open to playing the four. And his numbers, both during the regular season as well as the playoffs, were tremendous. And this guy has such a cultural impact on every organization that he hops on board with. I think the Lakers have a fine culture. But you add CP3 into the mix with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and I think the Lakers immediately become NBA championship contenders. You know who's with me? Magic Johnson, a former Lakers great. I understand Magic gets dragged on Twitter because I think he has people who draft up tweets for him. But I thought he made some good points here. He said this after the Suns went down in the NBA Finals after that legendary performance from Giannis, saying if Chris Paul opts out of his contract with the Suns, his first call should be from his best friend LeBron James and the Lakers. Looks as though that's potentially already happening. Wouldn't surprise me one iota if LeBron James has already hit up CP3. He was courtside for Game 5 in Phoenix. Magic also had this to say. A big three with LeBron, Chris Paul, and AD will equal an NBA championship. That echoes my thoughts. Of course, you're going to have to round out the roster. I'd have some concerns about some of the depth pieces, but a big three of those three future Hall of Famers would immediately put you in the conversation of some of the best NBA teams right now. I think CP3 is a much better fit, especially late in games, during the playoffs, in crunch time, because He has such a high basketball IQ and a great feel for the game, whereas the opposite can be said for Russell Westbrook, even though he's a breathtaking physical specimen. Who's the better fit, though? Type W for Russell Westbrook, type P for Chris Paul. Get those votes in down below. Next Thursday, really can't wait for it. One of our biggest events of the year right here on Chat Sports, live on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. Myself, Harrison Graham, live for the 2021 NBA Draft, breaking down every single pick. Now, during Game 6 of the NBA Finals, during our watch party, we surpassed 250,000 YouTube subscribers. Let's get to 260K leading into the NBA Draft. Hit that red subscribe button down below or go to youtube.com/chatsportstv and come hang out with us for the most interactive and most watched NBA Draft coverage on YouTube. I guarantee you it's going to be a blast. Is Jalen Suggs going to go in the top 5? Cade Cunningham going to go at number 1? Could Jalen Green upset the sports books and go atop the draft? Whatever happens, we got you covered right here on Chat Sports. Let's get to the latest on the Damian Lillard trade front. Last Friday, really a bombshell report from True Hoop that stated that Damian Lillard, in quote, the days to come, was going to request a trade out of Portland. Well, here we are about a week later, and Damian Lillard has not yet requested a trade. And after that report came out from True Hoop, Damian Lillard, while practicing with Team USA, did address reporters after that practice and denied requesting out of Portland, where he's been since 2012 after getting drafted out of Weber State. But there is a new report from Kevin O'Connor that we do want to highlight here because he did talk about the most aggressive trade suitors for Dame that we'll get to here in just a bit. And there's no question that landing Damian Lillard, whichever organization does, if a trade does come to fruition, it would certainly alter that team's title window and change the entire landscape across the NBA. As for that report from Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, this guy is tapped in to a bunch of front offices across the league. He had this to say. Front office executives say that if the Blazers eventually move Lillard, they can expect a return rivaling or surpassing what the Nets gave up for James Harden. Multiple young players, plus 3 first-round picks, and 4 first-round pick swaps. Harden is a former MVP, but he had only 2 guaranteed seasons left on his contract at the time of the trade. Portland could do even better because Lillard has 4 years remaining on his deal worth a grand total of $176 million. But unless Blazers general manager Neil Olshey decides to blow it up and trade Dame before he demands a trade, it sounds like the team will have a time to try and get things right. The question is, how much time? My question for the audience, who would you rather have, James Harden or Damian Lillard? I think Dame is the better player, and I think the Trailblazers could possibly get back more than what the Rockets got back for Harden because really the Rockets didn't get back any immediate player assets. As for the biggest suitors for Dame, according to Kevin O'Connor in that report, Miami Heat really up there atop the list. As we know, Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra always very aggressive in free agency as well as the trade market. Sacramento Kings, one of the surprise teams, but they do have some young pieces they could package in a trade like Tyrese Halliburton or maybe even De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield. New York Knicks can offer a bevy of picks and player assets. They're on the list as well. Houston Rockets, maybe if they give up pick number 1 to the Blazers, that would definitely signal a rebuilding effort from Portland and the Philadelphia 76ers. You're looking at trade assets that might include Ben Simmons, Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, and maybe future first-round picks as well. I've gone back and forth with this as to whether or not Dame does get traded. 2 weeks ago, I was kind of leaning toward him not getting dealt. But right now, I think it's somewhat inevitable that Dame does get dealt. Now, he did put pressure on Portland to try to make trades or do something to bulk up this roster to build a team around him that can make it out of the first round, because they've only made it out of the first round one time over the last 5 years. It was that Western Conference Finals trip just a couple of years ago. But I think when these reports come out from credible sources like True Hoop, it signals that a player is unhappy. Dame, after the Blazers were eliminated in the playoffs, had taken to Instagram to post that cryptic lyric from Nipsey Hussle, one of the great rappers in recent rap history. I think the writing's on the wall for Dame to be out, and I don't think it's a stupid decision to trade away Dame if you are Portland, especially if you're going to have a bunch of teams who are sliding in your DMs, making calls to you, giving you a combination of draft assets which will help streamline this rebuild, as well as players who can kind of help you right now as well as in the future. Which team is the best fit for Damian Lillard? We already gave you a few options. Let us know right now in the comment section where you think Dame fits best at. Let me know right now.